hay tantas professional networks donde tú dices, oh my God, hay otra maestra teniendo el mismo problema que yo, ¿cómo puedo colaborar con ella? So, conéctate.
All
Got it.
right. Bienvenidos, bienvenides a nuestra plática pedagógica. Tengo el honor de estar con las doctores del Castillo y Julia Cloat. Acaban de escribir un libro que se llama Teaching Reading in Spanish, a Linguistically Authentic Framework for Emerging Multilinguals. Y yo creo que se han acabado 2 veces y ya han tenido que ir a la tercera impresa, yo creo. Entonces, antes de yo contar todas los logros de estas gran mujeres, quiero pedir que ustedes que nos cuenten un poco de ustedes. Rocío, ¿quieres comenzar?
Sí, gracias, Kim. Gracias por tenernos acá en tu plática. Si hay algo que me gusta a mí personalmente es platicar y a Julia también. So, no, gracias por estar acá. ¿Quieres que te cuente, un poquito sobre mí? Nací en Lima, Perú. Nací y me crié en Lima porque vine acá hace como 20 años, en una familia de maestros. Mi abuela fue maestra, mi madre fue maestra o es maestra porque ella se molesta cuando digo que fue maestra. Siempre será una maestra. Mi madre es maestra. Mi padre es abogado, pero siempre estuvo ligado a la educación superior. So, en mi casa era muy importante la educación. Tuve el privilegio de vivir rodeada de libros. Aprendí a leer y a escribir en español. Entonces soy una bilingüe secuencial. Y me vine a Estados Unidos 20 años atrás por amor, siguiendo el amor de un mexicano. Me vine acá y yo había terminado psicología, ya era una psicóloga, practicaba psicología y practicábamos en un modelo donde era la psicóloga y la maestra juntas para niños que tenían dificultades de aprendizaje. Y cuando vine acá me dijeron, no, no hay manera de que estés en el salón. Tienes que ir a sacar tu certificación de maestra. Así fue como empezó mi larga aventura en educación acá. Estuve un tiempo estudiando mientras mis 2 niños crecían y eso fue así. Cuando ya mi niña más pequeña se fue al kindergarten, fue mi tiempo. Ella empezó por decirte, el 15 de agosto y yo volví a la clase el 16 de agosto. Volví a una clase maravillosa en un distrito cerca a mi casa, donde era una maestra de educación especial, una maestra bilingüe de educación especial. Y ahí comenzó un poquito toda mi aventura. De ahí seguí estudiando para ser directora, para estar en el distrito, en la oficina central del distrito. De ahí, después de mis maestrías para ser directora, seguí con mi doctorado para poder, no exactamente, no sabía en ese momento qué quería hacer, pero sabía que quería saber más de todo. Siempre eso ha sido, quiero saber más, ¿cómo haces esto? Y así fue. Terminé mi doctorado y comencé a trabajar en educación bilingüe en oficinas centrales, implementando programas de lenguaje dual. Estuve en diversos distritos hasta que llegué a mi distrito actualmente, donde también veo educación especial, grants como las becas o federales. Hago el trabajo de equidad, hago el trabajo social, emocional. ¿Ves? Hay algunas palabras, y esto es lo que estamos hablando, Kim, hay algunas palabras que porque la mitad de mi carrera fue allá y la mitad fue acá, que tengo que pensar, ok, translanguaging, translenguaje, social emotional, me cuesta un poquito más de trabajo que las puedo decir en inglés, porque como, ¿no? Y es parte de ser bilingüe, es parte de tener un cerebro con todos los repertorios lingüísticos que tienes. Voy jalando, como dice el doctor Medina, voy jalando de mi cerebro, pero algunas palabras que son técnicas en educación, que las aprendí acá, me cuesta un poco más de trabajo. Y
Sí.
pues vivo acá, vivo en los suburbios del noreste de Chicago, ¿ves? Esa también la pensé, con mi esposo, por el que vine a Estados Unidos, mis 2 hijos, uno de 21, Nicolás, y Isabela de 18, y mis 2 perros pitbull, que no les digo perros, pero les digo bebés, Canelo y Bruno. Esa es es largo, pero es una idea de quién soy yo.
And you know what I always say about them? They're spoiled pit bulls.
They are. They are very spoiled.
Tienen que ser, tienen que ser. Oh, I love it. And I agree. We're going to be translanguaging throughout our plática. Y yo sé que algunos términos me salen en inglés, otros me salen en español, especialmente dependiendo de qué modo estoy. Si estoy hablando de educación especial, siempre me sale en inglés because I, in special education, we all have a special education background, the three of us. So thank you. Julia, cuéntanos de ti.
So I'm Julia Cloat. I am a co-author of Teaching Reading in Spanish, and I'm also the associate superintendent in the Freeport School District. I live in Northern Illinois in this actually very different than Rocío. I live in my hometown. It's a small town where I grew up and went to high school, and my children were the fourth generation to graduate from the local high school in my small town. So it's very, our family roots are deep into that community. And I have always wanted to be a teacher, even from when I was a very young child growing up in Illinois, and went to school to become a teacher. Started off as elementary, and then I very quickly went through in many different roles, including literacy specialist, a reading specialist, literacy coach. I was of course, an assistant principal, all the things I did. And so then but I've always been in public school. So I've got at least 30 years in public schools. Rocío and I met when we worked together in the Huntley School District as curriculum directors. My doctorate is in curriculum and instruction, and I teach at Northern Illinois University, curriculum and instruction at the middle levels, which I just absolutely love. I never thought I would love working with undergrads as much as I truly do. And then I'm an empty nester now for the first year. My son Alexander is a freshman at Illinois State University, and my daughter Olivia is a junior at University of Illinois. And so now it's just my husband Max and I at home. He helps Rocío and I a lot. He's an amazing illustrator. I'm so proud of him. And so he helps Rocío and I with our illustrations of if you see those mini quick check books on our website, he did all of the illustrations. So we're so fortunate to have him as a part of our team. But yeah, that's all I do. I work in the district every day. And
that's it? You lazy Julia.
I work as associate superintendent, adjunct professor, and then the real job is working with the fun job and is working with Rocío and presenting and doing podcasts and writing. So
lovely. And that is a great segue to our next bit of questions about que acaban de escribir el libro, Teaching Reading in Spanish. ¿Cómo comenzó? ¿Cómo plantó esa semillita? Me imagino que habían escuchado de educadores y administradores acerca de una necesidad o fue una conversación entre ustedes. ¿Cómo brotó la semilla?
So I think that is, okay, switching, it's very personal. Okay, I didn't, one more time. So es bien personal para mí, because brotó de una necesidad mía en el salón de clase. Cuando yo empecé, las cosas no tenían sentido para mí, ¿no? Me dieron un currículum que era en ese momento lo que la mayoría del distrito hacía, y era un currículum que que yo no sentía que era como debía enseñar a leer en español, porque yo venía no solamente de enseñar a leer en español, sino de que me enseñen a mí. Entonces, eran demasiadas preguntas para mí. Y también viene la necesidad de que siempre como maestras bilingües tenemos tradúcelo o transadáptalo. Y hay buenas traducciones, pero no necesariamente que son auténticas al lenguaje. Inglés y el español son distintos. Entonces no lo tenemos que enseñar igual. Entonces eran preguntas que yo tenía y me tomó 13 años, ¿no? Entonces, y como administradora decía, ¿cómo encuentro no solo materiales, pero métodos y prácticas que sean relevantes y auténticas para el español? Entonces ha sido un proceso de preguntarme 13 años, por qué no lo tenemos o por qué tengo que poner el español, que es un círculo, en el inglés y enseñarlo a la English. Fast forward, estaba acá en el distrito donde nos conocimos, en Huntley Community School District 158, y dije, well, acá ya tenía una posición, ya estaba pasando directora, assistant superintendent, y le digo, esto no es equitable, no es algo que le podemos dar a los niños y que lo pueden utilizar, y le estamos exigiendo a las maestras que enseñen de una manera que sabemos que no va a tener buenos resultados. Entonces dije, ok, voy a hacer algo, y yo venía con un conocimiento de pedagogía y en general del lenguaje español. Pero si estamos en Estados Unidos y estamos en un ambiente, en mi caso era un programa de lenguaje dual, pero así sea un programa de lenguaje bilingüe, ¿no? No estamos enseñando solamente español como en isolation, sino tenemos que enseñar los dos. Necesita una compañera que tenga un strong pedagogy and knowledge in literacy en inglés, que yo no lo tenía. Entonces invité a Julia a comer y le dije, Julia, I want to write a book. And Julia, yay, Rocío, good for you. Woo-hoo. And it's like, no, I want to write a book with you. Y su primera palabra es, why? y it has taken a long time for her to understand why she was this unique fundamental piece for me to give some equitable product for teachers. There are bilingual teachers and dual language teachers. So that's a short version of the story, Kim.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And so it was born.
Yes.
And so when did that conversation happen?
It happened in 2019.
Mhm.
We were working together, as she said, we were working together in Huntley, and it started as just this book. And I like she said, I thought I was just helping her advisor, and it took a long time for me to really grapple with why she needed me. Rocío is so knowledgeable about this topic. Why did she need me? But I think that's what we try to convey when we present together, is it's not about English, it's not about Spanish, it's about that together. We don't have Spanish and English in isolation. We have those three linguistic spaces, the Spanish, the English, and the cross-linguistic spaces. And that's what our book represents.
Wonderful. And then, Rocío, claro, eres peruana y nacida y criada allá, entonces no paraste en los Estados Unidos ni en Perú. Yo creo que fuiste a bastantes lugares por todas las Américas, tratando de investigar cómo es la enseñanza de español, de leer en español. Entonces, cuéntame sobre tus viajes a lo largo y ancho. ¿Qué observaste? ¿Cómo se enseñaba a leer en español? Y más importante, ¿cómo se aprendía en otros lugares, otros países?
Sí, estoy súper interesada en cómo, porque creo que para empezar a compartir cómo se enseña y tener un método de cómo se enseña en español, uno no reinventa la rueda todo el tiempo, ¿no? Entonces hice bastante investigación y visitas a Latinoamérica, a México, que voy todos los años también, y algo muy distinto, que es el español como el español de Estados Unidos. Entonces, Estados Unidos también es un grupo donde tenemos nuestro propio español, ¿no? Nuestra propia manera y nuestra propia manera de dirigirnos a la gente. Pero básicamente hay distintos métodos, el silábico, el alfabético, pero el proceso es muy similar. Entonces todo empezó porque, como te digo, no tenía sentido para mí. ¿Por qué enseñamos los nombres de las letras? ¿Por qué enseñamos las palabras de alta frecuencia? Porque eso no lo hacemos allá. Entonces, si tú te pones a pensar, el español es un lenguaje muy transparente. Tiene 5 vocales, A, E, I, O, U, y tiene las consonantes. Cuando ya sabes que los sonidos de las consonantes y puedes combinarlos con las vocales, ya tienes el código. Lo único que es, trabajas en fluidez y en comprensión lectora, ¿no es cierto? Pero el código lo tienes. Mi mamá me mima. Memo tiene un mapa, ¿no? Entonces, no es difícil, no era tan difícil y yo creo que nos estamos complicando acá. Entonces, esas cosas como sentarnos a hacer fonética o phonics hasta morir con los niños, era no especialmente en un programa de lenguaje dual, no me estaba dando lo que necesitaba, era mucho tiempo para lo que me estaba trayendo como maestra, ¿no? Entonces, es eso, es simplificar, es muy fácil. Enseñamos las vocales primero, empezamos por las consonantes que son más comunes, M, P, S, T. Es casi la manera como aprendemos a hablar y como el mundo está alrededor de nosotros en los países de habla hispana. Entonces, ¿por qué no usamos los métodos? Yo aprendí de la misma manera que mi mamá y aprendí de la misma manera que mi hijo aprendió, porque yo le enseñé a leer, ¿no es cierto? Entonces, ah, podemos tener otros métodos y podemos definitivamente cómo enseñar a leer en español es muy distinto acá. Entonces, traer las cosas, nosotros hicimos mucha investigación de cómo están enseñando en otros países. Es muy interesante y podríamos hablar 3 horas las diferencias entre cada país, pero digamos, tienen muchas cosas en común, más son las cosas que tienen en común. Ahora, trayendo eso para Estados Unidos es diferente, ¿no? Porque acá todos estamos inmersos en inglés es el lenguaje de poder. Entonces, ¿cómo ponemos eso en los salones o en las aulas de clase? Y enseñarlo de una manera que podamos facilitar las conexiones lingüísticas cruzadas entre el inglés y el español. Y como para mí la palabra suena fácil cuando hablamos de cross-linguistic connections o translanguaging as a pedagogical tool, pero es lo más complicado. Y si no podemos apoyar a las maestras en eso, no estamos en un salón de lenguaje dual real, estamos enseñando los dos lenguajes in isolation. Esa es una palabra que estoy tratando de pensar en isolation. I'll get there.
Aislados, yo creo que,
Aislados.
pero tienes razón, no me viene a la mente el pronombre o el nombre.
Porque
Isolation.
estamos enseñando
Es más
dos
como un
lenguajes
adjetivo, aislados.
aislados, pero in isolation suena so good. Two
Sí,
languages in isolation. En Spanish es dos lenguajes sin ninguna conexión. No sé si hay una traducción literal para eso.
voy a ver.
Yeah.
Entonces, gracias. I love that. And I imagine having to explain that too, because Julia, this must have been new to you about
Oh, yes.
learning to read in Spanish and how do you teach it and how kids learn it and what other countries do. And so I imagine just the process of y'all coming together and talking through these issues and what does this mean for teachers was very helpful. So how do you take into consideration what we know about teaching in English and then what Rocío was telling you about teaching reading in Spanish? How did you square that?
So it was a process of, I love research and I love learning. So I would do research on what the linguistics were and about anything that I could find about multilingualism. I would read that research and then I would talk to Rocío and she would help me understand how to apply that research, that theory in practice. So I think a perfect example is when there was something that really helped me unlock the code was when I read some studies about universal characteristics of teaching reading that regardless of what language it is, as long as it's an alphabetic language, whatever language it is, these are consistent in any language when you're teaching somebody to read. And then there are some that are language specific. And that concept really helped me make the connection of when you make that cross-linguistic connection. And that was a game changer for me. We actually provide that information in our presentation in a fun and engaging way, so that to help teachers understand, here's where you can make the cross-linguistic connections, and here's where you have to keep the language separate. And I think that was a game changer. But it was hours and hours and hours of conversations with Rocío. And there was another time that really brought it home for me, was when we were talking about the relationship between reading and writing. And she had brought out a workbook that she had used in Peru when, learning to read. And we looked at that and analyzed it and saw how it's very different than a typical approach in the US. And so we really base it on what Rocío knows from authentic learning in Peru with what I know about how we approach it in the US, and especially how to make those linguistic connections with English.
Oh, I
And
love it. And you're speaking to my nerdy linguist and researcher heart too. So it combines like what's happening in real classrooms across the Americas, really. And then what we know about the research, and then what we know about, okay, how do we communicate that?
Because Rocío didn't come to me with a proposal to write a book. Rocío came to me with a problem. She said, our teachers need to know two things. One, they need to know how to teach reading in Spanish, but equally important, they need to know when their monolingual colleagues are doing something different, why, and how they can say, this, I understand that's what you're doing, and that's very important for your English speaking and students who are learning to read in English, but this is what we're doing intentionally and why it's different. And that was really important to us, that it was practical for teachers.
And I think that's the main goal. This was a book that we wrote for teachers, right? Because there's two pieces to that that I'm listening or hearing what Julie's saying. One is, for me, and in our country, is the term lectoescritura that I love. It's
me encanta. Yo uso ese término también.
no, and it's just that
Es
relationship
súper lindo.
between lectura y escritura que es inseparable, right?
Exacto.
I freeze.
No hay aislamiento. Es la
Oh,
palabra.
disculpa que me estás viendo bien porque me quedé. Ok, so es el término, el término lectoescritura, que es la palabra perfecta, ¿no? Para poder como tener una idea de cómo esas dos cosas son inseparables. Y yo siento que en nuestros países introducimos la escritura desde el día 1, desde el día que estamos haciendo A, I, O, U, ya estamos escribiendo con los niños. Y eso para nosotros es un enfoque bien importante. Después te vamos a contar qué viene en el segundo libro, pero
Pam,
definitivamente
pam, pam.
y la conexión entre las dos es importantísima. Y qué tan pronto introducimos la lectura en el proceso de aprendizaje, pero también el ser un advocate, ¿no? Las maestras de lenguaje dual, las maestras bilingües, sabemos that we are teachers and advocates, que tenemos que enseñar y darle, como decía Julia, esas herramientas creo que son tan importantes a veces cuando estamos explicando por qué somos diferentes, punto. Y eso le digo, no nos vamos a ver como ustedes porque no nos necesitamos ver como ustedes. Es simplemente un proceso de aprendizaje diferente. Pero cómo darle las herramientas a las maestras para decir eso en una reunión, que estén viendo el data de los niños, hablando con los papás, viendo por qué mi hijo no está acá en inglés y acá en español. Porque eso no existe, ¿no? El bilingual journey is so different para todo el mundo. Entonces no quiere decir que está en una zona y es los bilingual zones de Dr. Escamilla, pero no necesariamente tiene que estar exactamente en el mismo punto. Hablar sobre el language acquisition process y cuánto toma a veces, ¿no? Y el lenguaje que ellos, especialmente cuando yo te estoy hablando desde un punto de un programa de lenguaje dual, pero como Julia dice, es darle esas herramientas a nuestras maestras para que puedan ser advocates por nuestros estudiantes y por nuestros programas bilingües.
Me encanta eso. Eso es algo tan importante porque he ido a un montón de escuelas. He ayudado bastantes futuros maestros y maestros actuales, y muchas veces es que faltan esa confianza de decir, somos diferentes, no es igual en un salón bilingüe. Y déjenme saber, y déjenme contarles por qué. And
Mhm.
so having that bridge to having words to explain why it's different, and as Julia said, we're doing this intentionally, is so important. And I love that is part of your work, because it can change how dual language, bilingual education teachers see themselves in those spaces, as opposed to, oh my gosh, well, I went to this 3-day training that is based on monolingual English speakers reading and writing, and then I'm told to do this, but then I'm told something else. And so having the language and having the porqué is really, really important. And it's unfortunate that that onus has to be placed on them. That could be a topic for another day.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because it also goes to, are we communicating that with the administrators and the curriculum writers and everything else? Julia, go ahead. Go.
That's exactly what it is. And talk about a burden. In our presentation, we also talk about it's important to know this, because you may have to help your administrator understand. And I feel that is a burden we're placing on them. We have talked, and we've, kind of flirted with the idea of providing an administrator workshop or academy, so that monolingual principals or curriculum directors can understand that what their dual language teachers is doing is maybe different, and that's okay. But the expectations, a walkthrough tool or something in a dual language classroom is going to be different. Even just last night, we're currently going through a curriculum review, and the presenter showed something up on the screen about what is expected and what has to happen at every practice. And I kept saying in English, in English, in English, because I wanted everybody to be clear that English is not the only language that we're teaching in our district, and we need to identify the language that we're intentionally planning for, and when it's English and when it's Spanish. So
Yeah,
Amen.
and just
I love that.
piggyback on that, I think it's difficult for teachers, being one bilingual teacher myself, right? We're always like, oh, why I'm here, that doesn't, it's relevant to me, I don't belong here. You also have, or your other, your race, your ethnicity, your language as a teacher, and how do you belong in the whole group. And but I do think teachers have power. I do think that I felt it as a teacher after many years. So you have the power. If you are in, even if it's a native language program, is not a dual language program, you can teach with methods that are relevant and authentic and culturally appropriate for your students. So you can use the strategies that we know are best practices in any type of program. And we know teachers say, okay, you process that, and then this is probably not going to be relevant for my students, and I'm going to add that. So I believe in the power of teachers. So I think it's hard. We have to do kind of double all the time. We're teaching in 2 languages, right? But I do believe is, how do we find, as researchers, professors, administrators, ways to empower our teachers? And I think that's with knowledge, with sharing the knowledge, and make them feel welcome, make them feel valued. And I can see that every day for one teacher that, it's hard, and it's hard on herself, and it's like I'm burnout. I see so many teachers that are, you have those days. We all have those days that are, really, are you kidding me? No, I'm not going to do that because it's not relevant to my class. But then again, the next day you come and it's like, yeah, I'm going to do that because of my kids, right? So I believe a lot in the power of teaching.
Pues
isn't she
yo creo que
brilliant?
eso,
That's so
Julia,
smart.
go ahead, Julia.
I was just saying, I'm listening to Rocío going, oh, Wow, that's really good. I need to write that down. It's so true.
I have never
love,
said that. I don't know.
no,
You
I
guys were
love that.
talking, and I was thinking about that, and I was like,
Well, and it
So
goes back to
true.
being rooted in your anchors, right? I mean, it's not as dual language, bilingual educators. Not only are we responsible for content or responsible for language, multi-languages, and we are rooted, I mean, bilingual education got its wings out of the legacy of the civil rights movement.
Mm.
You know, we just attended the 50th anniversary of Tabe and the 50th anniversary of Nabe, and so it's like this is really powerful too if you look at even how bilingual education came to be in existence. And so talk to us about your anchors, las anclas que se aparecen en el libro, y yo sé que también son las anclas de su negocio de vía Ed Consulting. Entonces, cuéntanos de eso, porque yo creo que tiene mucho que ver con ese advocacy, que que es una palabra en inglés que me
I
encanta
know.
y no hay equivalente en español.
Yeah. So I'm going to give an introduction about our why, and then I will let she explain it beautifully. But so when we go, I think everybody has their why, and I'm being very strategic in my personal professional life. It's like why I'm doing this. Why do I want? I think we talk about this in our presentations. If you walk with a purpose, then everything is clear. Like in my worst days as a school administrator of a big district, I think why I'm here. And it's like, oh, that makes sense. So I'll continue doing what I need to do. So for us, it's our why. But your why is personal. But when you come to work so close, like with a co-author and with a partner in our consulting and everything, your why changes a little. So you have to come together. So what's our why as a team, basically, right? What's the why of our partnership? Why do we want to write our book? Why do we want a consulting company? And then the more we talk, and this is a work of days and days and days and days, right? Just to see it in the book, it's just kind of, makes me feel so many different feelings. But yes, so that's how it's coming from, how we're going to root our work. Why are we writing the book, and what are these big things that we believe in and our values, right? And we came with 4, and it's equidad, multilingualism. See, it's Spanish or English?
Yo
multilingualismo,
creo que el
and
multilingüismo.
una pedagogía basada en qué es lo que tienen los niños, no qué es lo que les falta. Normalmente estamos pensando, oh, es un limited English proficient, like le falta, es a lack of something. Y nosotros queremos verlo como qué es lo que tiene y qué es lo que trae a la mesa, ¿no? Entonces, eso es como una pedagogía basada en las cosas que tiene, no en las cosas que no tiene. Y lo otro es, que creo que hemos hablado durante todo este tiempo, es en métodos, en la pedagogía en general, pero métodos, prácticas, estrategias que sean relevantes al idioma, relevantes a los niños y relevantes a la cultura de nuestros estudiantes, que puede ser distinto. Cada año tenemos las maestras, eso mágico de tener tu nuevo salón de clase, que es un nuevo grupo con nuevas culturas, nuevos lenguajes y niños distintos. Entonces es también cómo nos adaptamos cada año, porque las cosas pueden cambiar, ¿no? Y para hacerlo un poco breve, para nosotros la equidad es que, equidad educativa es que todos los niños reciban lo que necesitan. No que todos los niños reciban lo mismo, pero reciban lo que necesitan, y que no importe de dónde vienen, quiénes son, qué lenguaje hablan, nada de eso, ninguna característica, sino que como nosotros como maestros podamos ofrecerles y como organizaciones y escuelas lo que ellos necesitan en el momento que ellos necesitan. Y creo que en el momento que ellos necesitan es importante porque a veces dejamos que nuestros niños estén un poquito behind y el tiempo es muy importante. Es lo que necesitan, de la manera que lo necesitan y cuando lo necesitan.
Perfecto, muchas gracias. And then, so of course, the anchors are kind of the cornerstones of kind of what your why is, right? And so, talk to us specifically about your tapestry. Uh,
Can
I
I do
know
this one?
how it came about, and how would you describe it?
So I want to talk about this one first, if that's okay, because this is the tapestry holds a special place in my heart. So we were doing our research and preparing to write the book, and we were trying to figure out, reading is such a complex thing to teach. It is the most complex thing you're going to learn how to do. And so how do you depict that in a way that makes sense and can help teachers? And so we grappled with that quite a bit because it's not a linear process. And so it's not linear. So we wanted to show how things work together, how they're interwoven. And then that was it. Rocío, as we know, is from Peru, where they have beautiful tapestries. And so what if we do a tapestry and we can take all of the components of what you need to do when you're teaching reading in Spanish, and we can make sure those are there so everybody knows these are important. But that wasn't enough. But because, as we talked about earlier, we know that reading and writing are interwoven. So we took the writing and we wove it through the tapestry of teaching reading, because we know that reading and writing together they have that reciprocal relationship, and that writing reinforces reading and reading reinforces writing. So we had that. But the other two pieces, because again, this is in a dual language and bilingual space, the other two pieces that are so important are oracy. And we want to make sure that oracy is not just something that you do with young children, and then once they learn to read, you're good. We do believe that reading and writing flow on a sea of talk. So oracy is also interwoven, as is translanguaging, because translanguaging can be used very intentionally as a pedagogical tool, as we discussed a little bit ago. And so that's in there too. So then I read a book. So because I like research, I read a book on tapestries because I want to make sure that the representation was there. We were using the right terms, and we played with it a lot. And this beautiful book we found on tapestries had a wonderful quote, and it talked about how tapestries bring together people, they bring together elements, including natural elements. And I thought, that's it. It's a reflection of culture. It's a reflection of what we know is quality Spanish reading instruction. And then what I love about the tapestry, especially the tapestries from Peru, is when you weave together the yarn or the thread, then the patterns emerge. And it's just like when you take all these isolated components, decoding is not enough, right? Decoding is not enough. But when you take all the components and put them together, beautiful patterns and stories emerge. And so that's why I really hold that tapestry in my heart.
I love that. Thank you so much for explaining it. And then also, I mean, the cultural richness, right? And how tapestries are different depending on the region you're in, and where the dyes come from are often from the specific plants or berries that are in that area.
Exactly. And that's why the natural elements come in. And I'm very much a nature lover. So that's another reason why it spoke to me.
Yes.
And so it's representation of our work, as well as a metaphor that we hope helps teachers.
And the front cover of our book is a Peruvian tapestry. And that's an amazing book. And I got that book with that quote for Christmas that year.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love
beautiful. I think that's Julia's quote. Every presentation She shared with the teachers every presentation, and I know that's her thing, so I'll let her share. But it's beautiful. It is just when we got to that point about the tapestry, we're like, this is it. It's just that, like, that light bulb, like, this is it, done. It took us a while. We were in La Cosecha, I think, in a conference together in La Cosecha. And we said, okay, that's it. So I think it's speaks so much to us in so many different levels. So
And that was another thing that made it special. We were at La Cosecha. This is in 2021. We were at La Cosecha when we cracked that code and realized the tapestry was what we were going to do.
That's beautiful. Apropos.
Mhm.
And so thinking about all these things woven together, right? That reading is en lectoescritura. No hay aislamiento. I think that's what I know we were looking
That's a good
for.
one, yeah.
Isolation, aislamiento. Does that work, Rocío?
No se ticha, no se, no, mira lo que dije, no se ticha, quiere decir, no se enseña. That was perfect.
I love it.
No se enseña en
En aislamiento.
aisladamente
Aisladamente.
o en aislamiento. Yeah.
Tal vez. We'll have to workshop it.
We'll do research. We're gonna have a little surprise for you at the end, and I'll tell Julia. But it's people were asking, is there Spanish reading tapestry? So, and teachers, we receive many emails. This community is amazing. So we receive emails from researchers, from names that I will never thought I was gonna talk to them, but from teachers too. And it's like, ¿y por qué no lo tienen en español? Of course. Why do we do not have it in español, right? So
guess what?
yeah. So decide to have it in Spanish, and it took a while to find the specific concept, right? And it's just how you thinking, should I have the articles? Because es la decodificación o es decodificación, es el razonamiento verbal o eso. It was long. We did it in a Saturday on Portland from after Nave. So I think this is like this relationship. Julia, remember when we were in Portland doing this? Remember we were in Guadalajara talking, but this has been, and we have one slide. It's all around where we are going. We're always talking about these, and just I think every place has a special vibe for us to think, or we have this connection with somebody, and it's like, oh, I have not, it's eso de que we're better together. It's not between us, pero contigo, con nuestros colaboradores, con los contributors, o con la gente que vamos conociendo, ¿no? Y que vamos haciendo preguntas. So, está listo. Y es el telar de la lectura en español, pero decíamos es tapiz o estelar. So hay una investigación detrás de la palabra tapiz o telar y de cada palabra, la conciencia fonémica, conciencia fonológica, decodificación, cómo decimos translanguaging, si es translenguaje o las conexiones crosslingüísticas cruzadas y todo el mundo, es muy largo, no es así, porque recibimos feedback de otras personas, pero está y lo vamos a compartir contigo, porque sí, eso fue como o sea, no está en español, y hemos trabajado en eso y lo vamos a compartir ahora contigo. No lo hemos compartido con nadie más todavía.
Perfecto. I can't wait to see it. And I will put it up on the screen when I get it. So let's talk about the elephant in the room with what's going on, the pendulum swinging and all this. I know, Julia, you beautifully described how all these elements of reading, it's not a simple one thread answer. And with the science of reading, how does that play into biliteracy instruction, and specifically in your tapestry, thinking about teaching reading in Spanish for both of y'all?
Right. So that's a great question, because we know science of reading is really being discussed and is a hot topic right now. So when we were writing the book, we knew, this is back in 2019, we knew that we were going to have to talk about science of reading. At that time, It really was being talked about more in English than in Spanish, but we knew it was on the horizon, so we wanted to talk about it. And this is a challenging topic because if you oversimplify it, it's easy to oversimplify this topic and then misunderstand it. So I think the best way I like to talk about it is to talk about what it is and what it's not. So simply put, the science of reading is decades of reading research that has informed how we teach reading. And but what we need to know is that research was done by a variety of different fields, including psychologists, cognitive sciences, the educators. So it's a wealth of knowledge and research that is continuing to evolve. And it has informed our instruction. What it is not a one thing. It is not saying that phonics all the time, always, in every language. It is not research that's rich in bilingual data. The research was done in a monolingual settings. So we want to be very careful and don't want to over apply it or misapply the research in a bilingual or dual language setting. So we have to be very, very careful. So that's why in our book, and we know most practitioners don't have time to do that research and read it. So what we try to do in our book is distill it into here's what it is, here's what it's not. We also don't want to oversimplify it because then we can't say it's all bad or it's all good. We don't want to oversimplify it, but it helps inform what we're doing. And because we are comparing English and Spanish, it does help inform that conversation. I tend to think about it as the research-based science of reading and the media-based science of reading, because what the media has done is oversimplified it and misapplied it to teaching.
Wonderful. I love that distinction. Well, I know our time is coming to an end. I think I might hook y'all in another day to keep do another plática. So I wanted to see, I know there's so much to say, but let's end with consejos. Our top advice. Los mejores consejos para maestros bilingües que están asumiendo el poderoso papel de enseñar a leer en español. What advice do you have for those teachers? I know you hit on some, but what would you say is your top advice, consejos?
I will say as a bilingual teacher myself, it's like follow your instinct. You know what is the best for your student, and you have a lot of power as a teacher. I believe that if we want to make a change in anything, including bilingual education, is the teachers. I respect, as I told you, I'm a third generation teacher, so believe in your guts. That's it. Sí, no, eso no es para mí, pero lo puedo hacer así. Ese poder que tienes, porque conoces el lenguaje, conoces la cultura y conoces a tus estudiantes mejor que nadie. Úsalo, usa tu intuición. Si tú crees que está bien hacerlo, está bien. Y si no, vuelve a tratar, ¿no? Trata otra vez. Pero ese sería mi mayor consejo. Cree en ti y asume el poder que tienes en ese año con esos niños, en ese espacio que es tuyo.
And what about, I know we've touched on those, it's important for the administrators, both at the school level and the district level, especially if they don't have a bilingual education background or much knowledge. What are your top consejos for los administradores que están considerando implementar el lenguaje dual en general?
And I will say, this is not a marketing anything, but mucha gente nos ha dicho, mi administrador no entendía y le he dado el libro y como que entendió. A veces tú sabes, cuando escuchamos de alguien que es cercano a nosotros, no hacemos el mismo caso que si algo que está en el papel y publicado. Entonces, no ha sido una, pero han sido 2, 3, 4, 5 historias que nos han dicho, se lo di a mi administrador, porque es como un resumen de las cosas y por qué son diferentes. Creo que lo más importante es, si el consejo es para los administradores, tienes que creer en el profesionalismo y en the pedagogical knowledge of your teachers, right? Es lo mismo cuando tenemos teams o cuando tenemos grupos de gente trabajando. Uno tiene que construir ese environment de trust para poder cada uno dedicarse a en lo que es mejor. Y si es para las maestras, es no desmayen y sigan, porque hay una luz al final del camino y van a entender, van a encontrar la persona adecuada que los va a ayudar y los va a apoyar y sean parte del movimiento que hay ahora, ¿no? Twitter para mí es una herramienta genial para no solo nosotros comunicarnos con las maestras, pero hay tantas professional networks donde tú dices, oh my God, hay otra maestra teniendo el mismo problema que yo, ¿cómo puedo colaborar con ella? So, conéctate si no hay nadie en tu distrito, porque yo he sido la única maestra bilingüe special en my district, ¿cómo te conectas afuera? Ahora las redes sociales tienen muchas cosas buenas, pero muchas cosas malas, pero yo siento que muchas cosas de colaboración están apareciendo en las redes, ¿no? Entonces, busca personas que piensan como tú, personas que quieren lo mismo. Pueden estar en la otra parte del mundo o otra parte de Estados Unidos, pero que piensan como tú y que pueden darte herramientas para ayudar a entender, a, a no solamente a los administradores, a las personas de la junta directiva, a tus directores, a los padres de familia también.
Sí.
Cuáles son las ventajas, cuáles son los beneficios y cuáles son las metas de la educación bilingüe?
Perfecto. Gracias. Well, I like to end because sometimes I try and do libro de lunes. I try and highlight an authentic, culturally and linguistically relevant trade book every Monday. So I wanted to get your picks. ¿Cuál es tu libro favorito en español, Rocío, o bilingüe?
¿Sabes que no tengo? Esa es la pregunta más difícil de la plática. No tengo un libro favorito. Me gustan todos y leo todos. Y si ves en mi oficina, mi esposo es, por favor, tenemos miles de libros en la casa, libros acá. Me gustan todos, me gusta
Sí, like right
agarrar un
next to
libro.
me.
Oh my God, me gusta agarrar un libro, me gusta cómo huele el libro, me gusta leer el libro, me gusta tenerlo en mi mesa de noche y cada vez es más la paz. Entonces voy cambiando de libros, pero me gusta vivir rodeada de libros, me gusta vivir. Acabamos de tener la experiencia de ir a Powell's Book, que es una
Oh,
de,
that's a fun experience.
Julie y yo fuimos a
Powell's Books is in Portland, Oregon, where
Yes.
Nabe just was, and it is a city block, even bigger than a city block.
It is. And when we're in Guadalajara at Phil with all the authentic Spanish books, we are like kids in a candy shop. I mean, we literally go through and I'll take 10 of these, 20 of these,
Y podemos hablar de todo, como Julia dice, me encanta ir a Guadalajara, es la Feria Internacional de Libros más grande.
Oh my gosh.
He ido
Me
por
tienen que llevar.
7 años. American Library Association tiene grants para maestros y distritos que quieren ir. Yo no tengo nada que ver con American Library Association, soy un member, pero siempre digo, a veces entre todos nosotros tenemos que decirnos qué hay para poder aprovechar esas oportunidades. Y estar en Guadalajara es una maravilla por miles de razones. Primero es porque es la feria internacional, la feria más grande del mundo en lenguaje español. Pero es una inmersión en la cultura también, ¿no? Entonces, bueno, about culturally relevant literature podemos hablar 3 horas más, Kim, pero para responderte, no, pero hay libros que son más queridos que otros. Y yo sé que tú lo conoces, pero I'm gonna go with Proudly Bilingual de mi queridísima Araceli. You weren't gonna say that.
I was gonna say that one. I was like, as soon as she's done, I'm gonna say Proudly Bilingual by Araceli Rodriguez, because
Which I have in one of my files.
What I love about that book, it really, because I'm not bilingual, I'm listening very intently and can hear and understand, but I love that it really helped me understand what that's like. I love it so much.
And I will say Araceli has been very impactful in my life in general. We worked together in McHenry. And when I was a type 29 teacher, just moving in, she was like, okay, follow my lead. And she just helped me in so many and support me in so many ways. And I saw Proudly Bilingual 2 years ago, probably en una maqueta de libro, que no sé cómo decir eso en inglés tampoco, en una maqueta, and then see the book and now see what it is just in
Mhm.
the book itself. And what she is getting from people and from kids, it's like it was like she got from me and from my kids. It's like, oh my God, that's exactly how I feel.
Yes.
It's all the time, my two languages interacting. So I think it's just a beautiful, story about how we all bilingual people feel, right? How we all feel every day. And so I'll pick that. That will be my pick.
All right.
Because
Well, it
of
sounds
the
like it's
one
a top pick for
before
both of y'all. I have it as well. And I actually did a plática with Araceli a couple of years ago about
I
it.
know.
So I'll make sure to put that link in the comments as well. So y'all can hear from the author herself, the dual language teacher extraordinaire and author Araceli.
And now
She's
bilingual
an
reading
amazing teacher.
specialist. She's a
Yes.
bilingual reading specialist, and she has an amazing story herself. She's wonderful. I don't have enough words to say how much the impact that she has in my life, and the amazing things she's doing now for the kids, and the things that she's receiving from little kids saying like, yo me siento así, that it's not different, right? Because sometimes you feel a little different. My family is different. We speak Spanish at home. Todo el tiempo estoy mezclando las palabras de una u otra manera. Mi cerebro va a mil con distintos lenguajes. So I think that's a great contribution of the story and of Araceli, is that now that there's a lot of people that feel like you, and having that representation at young age, it's so powerful.
Oh, what a wonderful way to end on what is it, a mutual fan society for Araceli. So who I know you've also brought on as a consultant via.
Mhm.
So we'll have to table that for another plática. I can't wait. We'll have to get our calendars out so we can schedule another plática. I knew I had too many questions prepared, but I love that the hardest one would have been my hardest one too. Pick your favorite book, your favorite children's book.
Right? It's like picking your favorite child, right?
So thank you so much for joining me today, and I can't wait to share the Spanish tapestry with the audience so they can really get their teeth into it as well.
Thank you, Kim. Muchas gracias por muchas cosas. Vamos a hacer otra plática de cómo nos conocimos cuando fue a tu taller, y también cómo quedé encantada con eso, con tu contribución a nuestro libro, con los planes que tenemos para colaborar, y eso es otras 2 horas. Tenemos 2 horas en Cultural Relevant Literacy, 2 horas en nuestros planes, 2 horas. So we keep doing that. Thank you very much. Muchas
Thank
gracias por
you. We'll have to
tenernos.
do a trilogy at least.
I know.
Thank you so much, Kim.
Thank you.
Which was really fun.
Always so fun.